Let's move over to the Big Ten. Tom, let's talk about Maryland a little bit.
Maryland's kind of an interesting story in that I think they could rebound substantially in 2025. So looking at 2024, finished 4-8, 1-8 in the Big Ten, won all three of their non-cons, and then lost their first three Big Ten games against Michigan State, Indiana, who had a hell of a year, and Northwestern. They beat USC at home 29-28 and then lost their last five games by two scores or more in each matchup. The end of the season was 44-7 against Penn State, so that was a rough one. They finished 17th in passing yards per game nationally, but gave up nearly 400 yards per game on defense. Key additions: quarterback Justin Martin, who I've talked about before on this show, other shows. I think a lot of what he put on tape last year at UCLA, four-star recruit coming out of Inglewood, California, was at UCLA, now completely crosses the country, and I think is entering a quarterback-friendly system. I'll get to more of that in a moment, but offensive lineman Latrell Perry from Central Connecticut State University, edge D.D. Holmes from your Florida State Seminoles there. TJ, sorry about that. Wide receiver Jaleel Farouk from Oklahoma. Wide receiver Caleb Webb from Tennessee, who had limited experience. Farouk got a little bit more with Oklahoma. And then Dante Joyner from Arkansas State, the opportunity to level up from the Sun Belt. Key departures: 21 players lost to the portal, and it's one of the highest totals in the country. Now, not to the portal, Ty Felton, who was basically the entire offense at wide receiver. Caden Prather, also a substantial contributor at wide receiver and dangerous. He's off to the National Football League. Defensive end Ruben Hippolyte, the second veteran presence, really disruptive, led the team in tackles. He's off to the National Football League. The spark on offense, quarterback Billy Edwards Jr., banged up a lot last season, but off to Wisconsin. Roman Hemby, he's off to Indiana. The running back, tight end Dylan Wade was their leading receiver at tight end, off to UCF. Marcus Dumerville off to Arkansas from the offensive line. Interior offensive lineman DeAndre Duffus to Georgia State. Cornerbacks Jonathan Atkins and Perry Fisher off to ECU and UAB, respectively. Maryland saw 7 defensive backs enter the transfer portal, so that's fun. Their top recruits, this is a top 25 recruiting class per 24/7 Sports. Quarterback Malik Washington is a 4-star. Offensive lineman Jalen Gilchrist is a 4-star. Safety Messiah Delome is a 4-star. Defensive lineman Bryce Jenkins, Zymir Smith, wide receiver, both 4 stars. 20 commits, 15 come from Maryland, Virginia, DC, or Pennsylvania. I like the tactic of trying to stay local and win your state. They get cannibalized quite a bit by Penn State and some of the other juggernauts in that area from multiple conferences, so you have to be able to win locally. Key games this season: at Wisconsin, that's the Big Ten opener. That's on September 20th. You'll play home against Washington on October 4th. You'll host the Nebraska Cornhuskers on October 11th. You'll be hosting Indiana, so there's a good opportunity for some revenge on November 1st, at Illinois November 15th, and then against the Michigan Wolverines on Senior Day towards the back end of the season. My expectation: Mike Locksley is going into his 8th season at Maryland. He's 33-41 overall during that time. After 3 consecutive winning seasons from 21 to 23, the Terps need to rebound this season. Locksley was lauded as a home run hire after his stint in Alabama, but the advent of NIL has damaged Maryland's ability to win their region when it comes to recruiting. As I mentioned, all the other superpowers at play. Right now, Maryland is a stepping stone Big Ten program, but 2025 is actually set up nicely. Their schedule is favorable. I could see them winning 8 games or more. The big question is offense. How do you replace Ty Felton, Caden Prather, Billy Edwards Jr., and Roman Hemby? Can the offense step up, and can the defense take a step forward? Offensively, 60% of Maryland's 2024 receiving yardage total and 57% of its rushing yardage total is gone now that those 4 aforementioned players have departed the program. As I mentioned, incoming wide receivers Farouk and Webb will be relied on. Not so much Webb. Farouk, they think they're going to be looking at more so to be a contributor, as he was with the Sooners. Octavian Smith Jr. at wide receiver, returning from last year. Running back Nolan Ray had a nice season last year behind Roman Hemby. Dwan Williams as well, returning from last year. Ray's probably going to be the focal point in that respect. Quarterback, it's going to be a competition, but I believe in Justin Martin being the breakout player from UCLA. Playing a year behind Ethan Garbers gave him some valuable time to develop, chance to flash against Penn State when Garbers was down. Maryland's offenses under Locksley historically they have relied on the running game, but its best years we all remember under the dynamic Talia Tagovailoa. I think Martin can duplicate some of those traits that Talia had, as long as he can avoid Talia's ability to turn the football over. My X factor defensively, linebacker Caleb Wheatland, leading tackler Ruben Hippolyte off to the National Football League, as I mentioned. So Wheatland is someone who could step up for the defense that definitely struggled last year. Wheatland led the team in sacks, was second in TFL, second in quarterback hurries, fifth in total tackles. I look for Wheatland to provide veteran leadership and production for the Terps defense. I think this is not necessarily a year where you see Locksley on the hot seat, but if this is another losing season, if this goes off the rails, I think that would be a big surprise in College Park. You could see him bounced if they really, really struggle.
You mentioned the NIL stuff, and I asked you this last week about Purdue as well, and that being a struggle. I mean, how would you, I don't know if you have a specific number or not, but just how would you, are they in the bottom third as far as buy-in and just funds available in the Big Ten, or are they kind of more mid-level? I mean, certainly, we know who the top programs are, but just thoughts there.
I'd say they're right in the middle. I've been surprised since the advent of NIL that Under Armour, literally their biggest supporter at the University of Maryland, hasn't just shot them to the moon. I kind of look at the way that Phil Knight and Nike money has been fueling Oregon, and a number of Oregon sports for that matter. So I've been genuinely surprised that Maryland hasn't taken bigger strides in that department. The issue, and it's unfortunate that, yes, it's a stepping stone program for coaches. It's also a stepping stone program for players. How many times have we seen guys have a little bit of buzz at Maryland and then jump to someplace bigger? Chop Robinson going from Maryland to Penn State is a perfect example. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for Maryland to make some strides. As I mentioned, this schedule is set up for them to be successful and at least make a bowl game. The question is, can they find the long-term answer at quarterback? Is it Malik Washington straight out of high school? Is it Justin Martin? I think there will be some justifiable competition there. But Maryland has every reason to start making noise in the middle of the Big Ten. And frankly, with all the realignment and all the changes to the college football playoff before automatic qualifiers, that fourth spot in the Big Ten at any given year could be up for grabs. And it's who's going to win 9, maybe 10 games. I don't think Maryland's that far from it. I think Locksley is the right guy for the job, but they cannot fall flat on their faces this year.
Tom, just out of curiosity, whenever I think of Maryland, right now I'm starting to think of Kentucky. And it's not an insult towards Maryland, but it's just the reality of they feel like a stepping stool program. They're not able to retain the premier talent. They're losing names to bigger programs. And the second that they start to struggle, then we have to have the conversation of, well, is he the right guy? I love Locksley. I think Locksley did a great job offensively at Alabama. I can attest to it. He helped the team win a championship. But still, you just look at the parameters of what are the expectations out at College Park and what are supposed to be the expectations out in Lexington. I see similarities. Two coaches that are getting paid pretty handsomely go to a bowl game. I mean, is there a world where very similar to Mark Stoops? He's on fire this year, but it's win all in 2026 if you end up underachieving this upcoming fall.
Yeah, in my opinion, if Locksley has a winning season this year and makes a bowl game, and win or lose in the bowl game, you're kind of touching on it before about Miami and the Pop-Tarts Bowl. It's like, all right, the win and loss in a bowl game doesn't really mean as much as it used to. But I think if Maryland is able to rip off 8 wins this year, he's safe, and he should be safe. That's a great bounce back from 4-8. Obviously, you basically flip your record entirely. But if this is another year where it's like, hey, we make some incremental progress, but we show some hope, I could see him staying there. Again, I think if this is a losing season for Mike Locksley, you probably move on from him. But even still, it's like, all right, like there's a lot of guys out there that you could go and get that will take that job because they also see it as a stepping stone job, to your point, similar to Kentucky. And also similar to Kentucky, I just don't know if the hot seat is all that hot for them. I think they realize the limitations with this program, and it's still kind of a head scratcher to me. I'm still surprised that there's not more money and resources behind this program. But for me, Maryland is in a good position to take advantage of this season, and they have a pretty good influx of talent overall. So I like Locksley. I'm with you. It's kind of like, yeah, Stoops feels good in Kentucky, but you're not satisfied. Are they satisfied? I think if they have a losing season, they shouldn't be satisfied.
Thanks for checking out this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're looking for more college football stuff, we've got it right here on College Football Addiction. Thanks for tuning in.